Video I explain the functionalities that I've implemented in my graphics programming final project, which is the face filter application. The first is task number 3, which is to track the webcam footage of the user. I use this by using the create capture function in P5.js, storing it to a video variable, and then placing that variable as the image source in this top left corner. Furthermore, I also created a button in order for the user to capture when they're satisfied with whatever footage they want to make as their photo. For example, right now, once this button is pressed, there is a class named Image Manager which takes care of the creation as well as the placement of these images in this grid-like format specified in the task rubric. The first filter I want to explain is the grayscale filter. Here I use a filter class, which is responsible for all these different filters, and what it does is it inputs, or is it takes RGB values and returns an array. For the grayscale, I use the luma ratios in order to get the gray value, set it to all the RGB channels, and then afterwards multiply that gray value by 1.2 since the rubric requested a 20% increase in brightness. And for task number 5, how I limited it to 255 is I made sure that I ran the min function in P5.js so that it would return the minimum of either 255 or the actual gray value. Next is number 6, which is to do the different color channels. And for here, all I simply did is, again, from the filters class, I zeroed out the non-color channels. So for example, if it's a red channel, I zeroed out green and blue. If it's green, I zeroed out red and blue, while maintaining the original value of that specified colors channel. Next is the image segmentation. Here, the sliders I created using a class called Slider Manager, which is responsible for the creation, the event listeners, as well as the connection between these sliders and these images. As can see, the sliders are interactive, and when slid to different values, the image is segmented in different ways. Uh, I also use a modify image function, which is placed in my class, in my image manager class. Uh, and this segmentation is responsive to the one above. Next is the color space conversion. Here, I use the formulas given in the document. An important thing to note here is this is HSV, this is YIQ, and for both, I had to first divide the incoming red, green, and blue values by 255 in order to get them between a range of 0 to 1. Doing the necessary mathematical formulas to convert them to that color space before multiplying them again by 255 to get them in that 0 to 255 range, and these are the results. Again, task number 10, it's very similar to task number 7, slider manager and modify image in order to segment these different images. As you can see again, these sliders are highly interactive. Task number 12 is I use the object detect library from week 19, and I created its own separate class called face detector, where I had a function called on perimeter to make sure that when the for loop creating the image is on the perimeter of the facial coordinates, it creates this white box. For task number 13, I linked the filters with the keys. So number 2 would be grayscale, 3 would be blur, 4 would be HSV conversion, and 5 would be pixelation. Couple of things to note. I made sure to use a function in the face detector class that I created called onArea to make sure that, again, in the creation of the image, if it's on the face, it runs the pixels through a different filter. For blur, I use a convolution where I use a 9x9 matrix to make sure it's more blurry. HSV, I simply reuse the code I had for task number 9. And for pixelation, I used averages, nested for loops in a block, and an image.set as the rubric specified. Finally, I want to talk about my extension. My extension is this ability to click at the different images and inspect them like so. Let me zoom out. And when hovering over, it will state the color and also this right here. These images aren't HTML elements, so I had to create divs that act as these event listeners. And again, you can choose any image to inspect. And again, because I'm in the console, I'm going to have to manually click. However, you can recapture, and everything works in this very nice and neat UI. Thank you.